Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums, and welcome to my RV studio. I am here in beautiful Colorado, and I just wanted to make some camping mini albums. Why not? So I put in an order to scrapbook.com. There is a video um, uh, on my haul. And one of the things I purchased was The Great Outdoors by Becky Moore, made by Photoplay. I purchased the collection along with some extra paper from Photoplay called Tula and Norbert's Camping with My Gnomies. So that's side. What I wanted to do is make this album, and then with some papers left over, it all matches, it all coincides. I'm going to make an album with Tula and Norbert, and they're going to go camping with us. So anyhow, that's coming up. Stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see what I do with that, because it's going to be a lot of fun. So anyhow, this is a 5.5 by 7. Yep, 5.5 by 7 with an 1.75 inch spine. And I'm going to show you how to make it. So get your paper crafting supplies, your bone folder, your scoreboard, your cutting, whatever you use to cut things with, and let's get started. Let's do this. So to make the cover, I'm starting out with two 8.5 by 11 sheets that I put a piece of 3/8 score tape on one side. I'm using my mat to line this up, just having that score tape on the other side of the halfway mark, and I'm putting the second piece right on the top of that score tape. I'll burnish a little bit, and there is the page. Now I have chipboard for the spine and the covers. The spine piece measures 1.5 by 7, and the two cover pieces are 5.5 by 7. And again, I've already put score tape on the back of that so it can adhere directly to my cardstock. I try to line it up in the center of the paper as best I can. Now I'm going to add some 1/4 inch score tape to both sides of where that chipboard spine is. I just try to lay it up right next to that chipboard and just tear it off. Don't have to be neat about this, because you know what? No one's going to see it. And then really important to burnish real well, because you're not going to get another chance to burnish. So I'm using my bone folder to push down, and then I'll just peel off the backing of the score tape. Or it's actually just a double-sided permanent adhesive. And then I'll take the cover, that 5.5 by 7 cover, and peel off the backing of that permanent double-sided adhesive and lay it right up. I'm almost over a little bit on that 1/4 inch score tape, but I use that to help adhere the sides. Sometimes I'll put it, if it's a bigger album cover, I'll put it right against the edge of the tape that's down, that 1/4 inch score tape. In this case, I'm just going a little bit over that 1/4 inch score tape. And it sticks like the dickens because you've got that score tape on the chipboard too. So make sure when you're going to put it down, you know exactly that it's even. Okay, so now that's down. I'm going to turn that over and burnish. I probably could do a better job of burnishing this. Oh, that's not so bad. Now, I've got excess paper on the side, so I'm just going to grab my ruler and my straight edge and just cutting off. That ruler is 1 inch thick, so I just have 1 inch on the two sides. The top is just a little bit less than 1 inch. It's somewhere between 3/4 and 7/8 of an inch. It's still enough for me to work with. I'd rather have 1 inch, but that's okay. Now I'm using my X-Acto to cut the corners off of that cardstock. I want to have at least 1/8 of an inch showing between the chipboard and the cardstock. You don't want to cut it down right to the edge because then you're going to see the chipboard. But, I mean, you can always use a marker to fill it in or something like that. It's not the end of the world. So I stand this up on the side and I am using my hands and then my bone folder to make sure that there's a good crease in the paper. I'm using the bone folder, make sure it's right up against there. And now I will grab my liquid adhesive, and in this case I am using the Art Glitter Dries Clear adhesive. It has no glitter in it. We call it glitter glue because it was made to put in glitter. So I put some right against the edge of the chipboard towards the top of that cardstock flap and then zigzag it throughout. I'll use my bone folder again to make sure there's a good crease there. And then I start in the center near the spine and start pushing down the cardstock onto the chipboard. And here I'm burnishing real well because that glue needs to be adhered. You'll know when it's stuck, but you want to make sure that you are burnishing until it's just got good adhesion. So again, I'll take the Art Glitter glue, put it next to the chipboard on the very top of that cardstock, and then a zigzag all throughout. You don't want to have too much. Number one, it takes too long to dry, and number two, you don't need much really to for the glue to dry. Now I prefer the Art Glitter Designer Dries Clear adhesive, but if you prefer another liquid adhesive, or even if you like to use the score tape, that's fine. I would not use ATG. I don't think it's got enough of a permanent stick. Although when you're making a cover, you know, you're gonna have other elements to help stick it. So I guess you could use ATG on the cover, but I wouldn't use it to put together an album. But you see, I'm not using ATG, so that's entirely up to you. I would think if you used ATG, your album's going to fall apart eventually. And you don't want that after all the hard work you've done. Oops. All right. Yeah, I have to clean off the bone folder. I get some glue on it from time to time. So again, I'm just burnishing down, making sure I've got good adhesion. I'll run my bone folder on the top and sides here. Now you see I'll take a little, oh, I haven't done it yet, maybe I'll do it later. Take my bone folder and push it at the corners there where the chipboard ends. Oh, I didn't do it. I probably cut my cardstock a little bit too close to the corner of the chipboard, so I didn't need to. I see some glue seeping out at the top. There, that takes care of that. Clean off my bone folder, that's important to do. And again, run my bone folder up against the side and the tops. And then I take my bone folder, and you can't use a sharp point. I'm sort of using the side of it and pushing that cardstock into the adhesive that we've got there, that 1/4 inch that we put in. That helps keep it all together. All right, now I'm going to make the hinge out of 6 by 11 inch cardstock. I will write down the measurements. All right, I'm going to tell you where to score. And you'll notice that I go back because I missed one. But you score at 1.5, at 2, 2.5, 2 3/4, 3 1/4, 3 3/4, 4, 4.5, 5, 5 1/4, 5 3/4, 6 1/4, 6 1/2, 7, and 7 1/2. That will give you 5 1/2-inch hinges and 4 1/4 inch gussets. So I turn my paper over and you see the 1/2 inch, the pairs of the hinges score in between each of those 1/2 inch pieces. And I will move my paper up as we go and score and burnish between each of those 1/2 inch pieces. You'll see it will form a mountain. It's not, I mean, you can see where they are. So now I'm going to hold my fingers at the top and pushing up with my thumbs. I'm going to grab where we scored and sort of squeeze them together and go back and forth. And that is just training the paper on how you want it to go. What we're doing is we're training those 2 1/2 inch pieces to act together, I guess, is a good way of putting it. And see, now you can see the 5 separate hinges. Now I'm taking an extra surface and putting it down, and I'll add glue. I turned it over again, and I'll add glue in those I'll put it on one side of those 1/2 inch piece. I put it down towards the bottom and towards the top, and then add some glue. I'll turn it over, and now I will pinch this and sort of squeeze. If you get any glue on your fingers, make sure you clean it up because it will show. But then I will train that one piece to go together. Then I'll do the other pieces as we go. So add the glue. I want enough so it'll stick, but I don't want to go crazy that it's going to be so wet it'll take forever to adhere. So I will pinch, well, I need to push that together. Pinch that hinge together, squeeze it, run my fingers up and down. Make sure it's glued even down to the bottom. And now we've got 2 hinges together. So now I'll take the next one and continue that way. I am in a climate where it is not very dry and it's sort of cool. You can see I'm wearing long sleeves today. So I'm going to do these other 3. If you're in a dry climate or if you have a fan or lots of air movement, you might be very cautious about doing more than one at a time. I would say start with one at a time until you are comfortable with this technique. So I'll get the rest of these put together. My fingernails are really short, but I can take them and put them at the very bottom, the very base of that hinge, and that helps get a good close adhesion. So they're all facing one direction. You can see all the glue that came out. Now I'll turn them all to the other direction, and I use the edge of my bone folder and push. If you get any glue, clean it up. I'm not going to the very edge here. So I go back and forth a couple of times. And then there you go. Well, let me see. Can you see the hinges? And again, there's just a 1/4 inch gusset in between. Just because that's going to work for what I need. So I look in dry fit to see exactly where this is going to go. It's really close. So make sure you're not going to have your hinges go over that fold where the where the spine ends and the page begin. I add glue. I actually start in the channel between where those 2 pages go together. And then I go back and forth, then fill in. This is probably the most glue I'll put in an album. It gives me a little time to work it, and also the hinge is really important. You want to make sure there's good coverage. Now I don't cover the whole paper because I want to be able to grab it. So again, I'm eyeballing it. I'm a little closer to the bottom than I am the top because I will probably have photo mats sticking out at the top of the pages. So now I'm taking my non-stick bone folder, and it's important to use a non-stick to do this because that way you don't get that shininess on the paper. Depends on what paper you use. And then I push it down. So I start in the middle, and then I go to one on the right and then one on the left. You'll notice it moves all of the hinges over every time you do one. So again, I start in the middle and then work my way out. Alright, so I've gotten the hinges all put together, and I'm going to take some time and burnish real well and make sure that the paper's adhered down. I don't push into that channel where the spine and the covers meet yet. I'm going to let the paper dry. So what I'm going to do next is add glue under the rest of the flap of the paper and make sure it's adhered, and that is it for this part. And then the final thing I do is to use the bone folder to crease in the channel between the spine and the cover on both sides. You just have to be gentle and turn the book up as you do it. Okay, so I cut 5 pieces of cardstock that are 6 3/4 by 10. We're going to grab our scoreboard and simply score at 5 and then rotate and score at 1/2 inch. So our pages are going to be 6 3/4 by 5. Now I'm going to grab my X-Acto and trim a little bit off. So we've got that score line on the bottom. I'm going to line the ruler up to the score line and trim from the score line to the edge of the paper. So only half of that little tab is going to come off. And since I have the knife in my hand, I'll go ahead and angle that tab. I'm going to go ahead and grab my glue. I will now fold and burnish the paper. Make sure that everything's lined up. Now's a good opportunity to make sure it's all straight. So I'll fold that little tab inwards and burnish on that fold line. And then I will grab my glue and close that up. Of course, the glue was sitting out for a little bit too long. Let's see if I can get enough out of it to glue this. All right, there we go. And then I'll go ahead and fold and use my bone folder to burnish the glue. And that should be good. So what you get is you've got a folder. It's got 2 sides that are closed and 2 sides that are open. The side that's open is going to go onto the hinge. So I'm going to pull that last hinge. I start from the back of the book, and I'm just going to dry fit it and see exactly where it's going to fit. Now when I put that page down, I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom of the hinge. I'll go down and then sort of back off, have either a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch left on the bottom of the hinge. So now I'm going to add glue to the hinge, and I'll probably go just about halfway down. Put it on both sides of the hinge. Again, you don't want to put too little, but you don't need it gloppy. You don't need a lot of glue. And then I'll put the page right back on and make sure the page is straight. I'll look at the bottom and make sure it's lined up, and also make sure it's parallel to the edge of the cover of the book. And once I've got it in as straight as I want, I'll go ahead and burnish real well. So by using glue, you've got a little wiggle room, so you can adjust it if you need to. So there we go. There is our first pocket page. I don't know if you can see. There you go. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the pages on, and I'll do that in fast motion. So the only thing I'll tell you is when you're putting the other pages in, make sure they line up with that first page we put in, which is actually the last page. And make sure that the page is not all the way down to the book. It just, when you put the page all the way down on the hinge to the spine, it impinges some of the movement of the page. So that's why I put it down and then back off just a little bit. So I'll get the rest of these pages in, and then we can move on. Okay, now we're going to add pockets to the front and back. So you'll need two pieces that are 6.5 by 3.5. I've already scored it on two short sides and one long side. So you put the long side at the top, score it half an inch, rotate, score it half an inch, rotate. And then I've got a piece that's 5.5 by 5.5, and I'm going to just simply score on one of those sides. I will grab my scissors and miter those corners. Okay. And then I will miter the corners of those two pockets. Just cut across the X of the score lines on the bottom and trim the corner on the top. So here we go. I'm just going to trim up here. And then there's an X from the score lines. Just cut straight across that. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my bone folder and fold and burnish on the score lines. So what we'll have on the front page is just a simple pocket, but on the back we're going to have a pocket with a flap. And since we're going to make the pockets, might as well make both the same and get that done at one time. I did not make these pockets gusseted pockets. Sometimes I do if I know I'm going to have a lot of extra things, but this is a small mini album with a small spine. And then I do grab my corner rounder and just round the flap of the pocket. I've had that corner rounder in my stash for quite a while. It's actually breaking a little bit, so I'm going to need to replace it soon. I couldn't tell you where it came from. It was a garage sale item. Okay, now I'm going to go glue that top flap down on the back pocket. You could have it on the front if you want, but I always like to have a back pocket with a flap, and that's where I put all the excess pictures. So keep it close to the edge of the paper, close to the right-hand side. You don't want to have it too close to the left-hand side and have it get in the way of when the book closes. Oops. And I'm going to go ahead and put down the pocket on the back. I'm going to first glue down the bottom, and again, keep it again to the right-hand side and burnish it. Okay, and now I will just make sure that's lined up real well. That pocket on the bottom isn't perfect, but it's just off by a 1/16 of an inch. I'll go ahead and put a piece of tape on the bottom so that way if I don't put paper on the back, then the whatever goes inside will slide all the way in. And I'm not going to glue these side tabs down yet. I'm going to put the decorative paper on first. And I don't know if I'm going to use magnets or circle closures or swing tab. I'm going to wait till I finish decorating the book and I'll decide then. And now I will put the pocket in the front on, and the same thing, I'm just going to glue down the bottom. Make sure it's to the left. Stay away from the workings of the spine and hinges. And I'll add a piece of tape and leave that until I know what I'm doing. Okay, now let's decorate some pages. All right, let's cut 3 pieces of cardstock that are 5.5 by 6.25. We're simply going to put the 5.5 side at the top and score at 1/2 inch, and do that to all 3 of the pieces. And I've already done this one, so these other 2 we're just going to miter on the corners. Okay, that's done. Now let's just fold and burnish on the score lines. Very simple pages. We are going to decorate pages 1, 3, and 5. They're going to have a flap and a pocket, but we need to put the flap on first. So let's go ahead and glue. Come on, glue. There we go. All right. Now we're going to put that down and put it on the page itself, not on the hinge. I mean, it'll be on both, but you don't want it down any lower than the page is. So I'm going to burnish it real well. So I'll skip page 2 and put it on page 3. And this is a good way of adding, I had a little dab of glue on there. It's a good way of adding some extra room to put photos. Now you could make this page smaller if you wanted to, but I'm keeping it the same size as the page again, just so I get more room for photos. Skip page 4 and then we'll go to page 5 and put on that other. You could also, if you wanted to, have it open from the edge of the page away from the spine, but this way, if I'm not going to use a magnet, just try and clean up some glue. If I'm not going to use a magnet, then it just will open as if it's an additional page. All right, now I'm also going to take a piece of paper. I'll need several. I'll do 3 of these to start. I might add 2 more that are 2.5 by 6. So we are going to put the long side at the top and score 1/2 inch, rotate and score at 1/2 inch again, and rotate one more time and score at 1/2 inch. And of course we'll miter the corners, go across the X of the score lines for the bottom piece and miter the top again. And we've got that done, so we will fold and burnish. So we will put these on the pages that already have the flaps. So we'll add glue to the bottom. Well, I might as well do the flaps and then add that to the page. All right, so pages 1, 3, and 5, we have a flap and a pocket. Pages 2 and 4, we're going to have 2 smaller flaps and a closure coming from the right side with a magnet. So for that, we're going to need 4 pieces of cardstock. I've already scored a couple that are 5.5 by 4.25, and we're simply going to put the 5.5 side at the top and score at 1/2 inch. And then for the 2 little flaps that are going to come and close it, you'll need 2 pieces that are 4 1/8 by 3 5/8, and you're just going to score at 1/2 inch. Is that right? That doesn't look right. Oh, no. You know what? You're take that back. Let's erase that. To erase it, I'm going to go just gently over it. So you can see it, but not much. And once we put something over it, you won't see it. So I'm sorry, put the short side at the top and score at 1/2 inch. This is going to be for a 3 by 4 journaling card, cut apart, whatever you want to call it, to put on the side. Let me move my scoreboard out of the way and miter on all those 1/2 inch tabs. And see, this one I folded already because I was just playing with it, trying to see how it was going to work. See if it would fit okay. those little doohickeys out of the way. Grab my glue and grab the book. Alright, so again, pages 2 and 4. And if it helps, you can number your pages. Now you want to do these together. So we have the two flaps, put one on top of the other, fold the flap and see exactly where it's going to meet. I'm going to mark it with a pencil. And then I'm going to add the glue. Anyone else see that glue dropping? First thing in the morning when I, whoops, I'll turn it up. When I get the glue out, I think just because of the change in temperature, some glue drips out. All right, let me get my bone folder and burnish. So you see I've glued the two flaps together. You can see there's an overlap, and one piece looks bigger than the other. Of course it's going to, because just because of the width of the paper, the 1/1000th of an inch, or however thick it is. Alright, and then I'm going to go to the left-hand side of the page. Make sure it's even top and bottom. And it's going to be on the page, not necessarily on the hinge. And then I'll open it up, and so there, we've got that. Now I'm going to take one of the smaller flaps and add glue onto there and put it on the right hand side of the page. I'm going to just center it by eyeballing it. You could measure it if you want to. And what I'm going to eventually do, so these pages are a little bit too big, and it causes the pages to, this is why I shouldn't use black, but I always use black. But see how this sort of bubbles out? So what I'll do is probably just trim this down just about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more. And when I put in the next one, I'll make sure that they will not do this. Maybe put the flap in first. Let's do that. Let's start with, and I'll show you what we'll do to combat that. And I'm sorry, but I'm taking this glue that was down there because I'm going to have to clean it up anyhow. All right, we'll put this down first on the right-hand side of page 4. Whoops, didn't mean to get some glue stuck there, but I did. All right, now let's take one of those flaps, and I'm folding it in, and I'm going to just place it on the edge, and it's just off by maybe a 1/16 of an inch. Well, I'm going to take 1/8 of an inch off, and let's see if that works. That works much better, because now this flap will close and there's no puckering. So what I will do is, again, fold one over the other. I think I had this first and this second, and I am going to make sure that this will close, which it will. So I'll glue these two together and then put them down on the page. So this is where I need to glue it. Fold this. And then this one I didn't cut, so I'm going to trim a little bit off of it. And then add the glue to the tab. Put it down on the page. And that is fabulous. So now what I will do is go in and add a magnet to here and a magnet to there, just so this will keep it closed. And that is really all the decorating I'm going to do, or all that. What am I going to do anymore? I am. I had another idea. So let me cut the paper and I'll get back with you and show you what we're going to do next to the book. Alrighty, I have cut 2 pieces of cardstock, 7 1/4 by 2 1/2. We're going to score with the long side at the top at 1/2 inch, rotate, short side at the top 1/2 inch, rotate, the long side at the top again 1/2 inch. So we're making a pocket. This is going to be a side loading pocket, and I will put this on the back of page 1 and 3. You can put it on the back of page 5 if you wish. Now the reason I'm not going to is I don't like to put things that can interfere with this flap. And while it may or may not, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to leave the back blank. But it's up to you. So cut 3 if you want to. I will go ahead and miter the corners. Which the reason I do that is, again, it reduces bulk, makes it easier to fold and less easy to see. You just don't notice it so much when you have that mitered corner. And too, if you cut it too big or too small and you don't miter it, it really sticks out. Try it sometime. Alright, I'm going to... Okay, so again, so here's page 1. It's got the flap and then the pocket on the main page. And then there's page 2, and that opens like that. So on the side, I'm turning this page, the book, just so it's easy for me to work with. I'm just turning it sideways. Add some glue on this long flap, and that's going to go on the page, not on the hinge necessarily, just on the page, right to the right of the page. And then I will grab some tape and put that. So again, if I cut the paper short, because you won't see it, it'll help the page slide in. And you can, if you want, put the tabs down at this time, or you can leave it and put it down after you get the page in. So again, this is the back of page 3, and I'll add the adhesive on that long side and put that on the page, not on the hinge. Burnish it. Add my little super duper tape. How much do I put on? Well, just enough to cover the majority of it. It doesn't have to be exact in my mind, because as long as you get the majority of it filled, taped. My glue did not want to come out, did it? I gotta clean my tip. But in any case, I will burnish there. And if you want to, you can cut out a piece to go in the pocket now. So the page is 6 1/4, so I would cut it no bigger than 6, and it's 6 1/4 by 5, so 6 by 4 3/4 or smaller. So I wait till I'm all done to see what scraps I have left, and I might use them at the time. But that really is the construction of the book. So it's pretty easy. Again, what I like to do is repeat pages. It makes it easy for people to go through and understand how the book works. And it makes it easy and fast to go through. You can repeat these elements. You can add to it. For instance, if you just wanted a book with side loading pockets, you could make it with 10 side loading pockets in the book. Don't forget, you'll also need to cut enough for a top loading pocket. So when I'm all done decorating, which I'm going to do the walkthrough next, you will see exactly how that goes. So next is the decorating, and then I will show you a complete walkthrough of the book. Alright, so obviously I have decorated this off camera, and now I'm going to take you through a walkthrough and show you what I've done. With the cover, I just layered several layers of some cardstock from my stash, this green tree paper, the wood paper, the green tree paper again. I cut a strip of this yellow ochre goldenrod color, I don't know what you call it, from the collection, and the words Explore were from the sticker sheet. And so I put that on there, along with this banner on the top and a bear claw on the bottom. It's a simple cover. I wanted it to go flat, so if someone who purchased it and they camp in their RV, it can go in a shelf. Here is the spine, and there is the back. I need to make that straight up and down, or else that will bother me. So anyhow, there is that. There is, as I said, or may have said, a video on how I made this, so you can follow along. So the front inside cover and the back inside cover both have a pocket. The back has a flap. And I use this green paper inside, and then and this from the border strip. And that, of course, is a cut apart. And all the cut aparts I put white on the back just because I wasn't going to use any more paper, because I wanted to play with something with the Tula Norbert one. So you could put a 4x6 photo here, and that's pretty simple. I love all these camping icons. They're a lot of fun. The backpacks go along with that. This flower paper was adorable, and this is the coordinating paper. That's the B side of it, and that's what I used for here. So there is a pocket. So the first page is a flap, and then the page with a pocket, and on each signature you will find a top loading pocket that we have. So I just use white cardstock. Note to self, anytime I buy a kit, I need to buy the coordinating paper that goes with the kit. I know that, and I don't know why I did not. Probably because I thought I had enough of this kind of paper in my stash, but you know, it's a odd red. It's a tomato red, and this is a olive green, and I've got lots of forest green but no olive green, and this blue is a Carolina blue, I guess. So note to self, buy the paper. So anyhow, I used a lot of the cut aparts. I think I used them all, and stickers from the sticker sheet. So here is one signature, and I did pages 1, 3, and 5 are the same. So page 1, 3, and 5 is going to have a flap and a pocket, and then the back will have a side loading pocket. So here's that side loading pocket, and I put a couple of adorable photo mats in there. And then pages 2 and 4 all have this side flap with a cut apart. And so here's the cut apart I used a sticker. This is the one part of the book I'm not nuts about. I didn't want to use up all this red buffalo check paper because I didn't think I'd have enough. Well, it turns out I would have had enough. And I might just cover this up, but I might leave it. So I used some red paper from my stash, covered it with black, and then added a camera detail so you know to put the photo on there. And then this was from the sticker sheet. I cut it. So there is a small flap there and a small flap there. And I did put some of the stickers on there. And then this sheet has a sticker. You know, I should probably put a sticker on the back of that. But anyhow, so this will go like that, and there's a little magnet holding that together. So that is page 2 and 4. Now the back of page 2 and the front flap of page 3 are blank, so you can just use that for photos. I tried to keep it just easy to use. So then here we go with the flap, and then here's the pocket. And of course there's the hidden photo mats in between all of that. And then here's the side loading pocket on the back of page 4. And then here is the small. So you see I repeated the elements. I used one of the banner stickers there. And again, plain 2 sheets. This actually, I put the sticker on a piece of that yellow ochre paper, and so you can use that as a tuck spot. And then there's a sticker there. There's that flap with a little photo mat. Of course, there's our top loading pockets. There's the back, a little sticker there, and my signature pocket with a flap for the back inside cover. My theory is when you get to here, you may have lots of photos or memorabilia that you have not found a place for in the book. So this is a good spot to put it. So there is that. There's, again, the back cover with the wonky thing. So that is what I made with the Great Outdoors paper collection by Becky Moore from Photoplay. This is a new collection that came out in 2022, so it is still available. I'll put the link of this in the description box so you can go out and get that and follow the tutorial and make something fun. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.